We've been working on this Sony SL-HF900 SuperBeta NTSC machine, and basically it's fixed. There were two issues outstanding. One is to make it easier to power because it's 100 volt, and transformers that I've got here for USA equipment is 110. It wouldn't be ideal running 100 volt equipment on 110 volts. So there's problem number one. And number two is we still have a bit of a timing issue, or otherwise an issue with the front loading mechanism. It works, but it's a little bit clunky. So let's first see what we can do about the mains voltage. Now, the HF600, which is the other SuperBeta machine which I was working on a few months ago, you can actually reconfigure that for different voltages. There's different tappings on the transformer. I'm not seeing that here, so let's have a look at the power supply. Oh dear, this is not looking so good. This is the input to the transformer, and there's only the two wires, so it's not like there's different tappings coming onto this. And then the transformer itself actually says 100 volt, so the only thing you could do is change the entire transformer. Oh, that's inconvenient. If anybody has a scrap SL-HF900 USA Canada model with a transformer they could let me have, please let me know. Otherwise, I'm going to have to get a 230 to 100 volt transformer for this. At the moment, it's running on a multi-tapping transformer. I don't know if you can see what I've done there with these links, but I've got 123 volts and then out of phase 20 volts. And that's giving me, so that's taking 20 volts off, so that's giving me about 100 volts. So yeah, that works, but not a long-term solution. Okay, for the time being, putting aside power voltage issues. So the front loading mechanism seems to be going in before the tape is far enough in. Let's just prove that. So I'll power it up on my transformer. And the machine at this point is fully working. Everything's fine. So if I hit eject, well, it's not coming out far enough. So there's a problem. And then it's just not right, is it? If I do take it out, well, I think it might still think there's a tape in there. It's not fully ejected. Yeah, it's sort of working, isn't it? Can I put a tape in? So my main problem is that it's not ejecting the tape fully. And now the door's not fully open, so it's not got fully out. That's the only problem, I think. Oh, and then it's doing that. And I think now it'll eject. And then the door does get to the correct position. So that's my problem. It's, oh, now what's it doing? Not well, is it? It's so close to being right. Now, I had set up the timing of the gears in here as per 12 volt vids information on how to set the mechanism up on this particular deck, not any other model, this actual one, but still it's not quite right. This is the output to this from the switch, which detects whether there's a tape in there. So perhaps I should just meter that initially. Let's try inserting the tape and see when it makes. I would say that's correct. The switch seems to be working properly. Ah! It shouldn't be making then. That's not right. It should make when it's slid in, not make when the door opens. So there's something slightly wrong with the spring. There's a spring inside one of the gears, and that's one thing that 12-volt vids didn't cover. Right, let's take the carriage off and have a look. Now, I have refitted the front panel, which I may now regret, but there was a lot of cosmetic damage on this front panel, and I really needed to refit it and get the problems fixed in here. So I may have trouble now taking the carriage off with the front panel in. That could be a problem. I'm going to take this gear off for a moment. I know I'll have to retime it. There are two timing notches on here. One is for setting up the fully ejected position, and one is for setting up these gears. And it's this position I'm not happy with. This has a spring in it, but the spring is not doing anything at the moment, and I'm sure that is our problem. This spring is not set up right. That, I'm sure, is our problem. That should be pulling to one position or the other. There's more than one way you can put the spring in here, and the way I've got it at the moment, there's no spring effect until the very end. Is that correct? Seems a bit too soft. Seems like it's not really doing a lot. But at the end of the rotation, the alignment holes do line up. But it just doesn't seem like an awful lot of twang on that spring. With the spring in that position. There's no information in the service manual on this. If I put the spring in... Is that the right position? It's got to be the right position. Or if I have the spring in there, this slot here, then we have another position where that goes through, and there's a lot more twang on this. Is that correct? Actually, I think that is correct. That feels better. That feels right. Let's retime it as per the 12-volt vids instruction, which is the second marker here, and all these holes lined up. Right, so on the second marker, on this end gear, and that's lined up with the deck, and that's lined up with the deck. Is that correct? I may not have the timing right on the door. Come to that in a minute. Okay, I think the door timing is out by one tooth. No, it's not. Right, now it's fully ejected. That's the fully eject position. So now when we put a tape in, as we start to push it in, it should make this switch. There. That looks right. That feels right. Okay, let's refit that to the machine. Okay, let's power it up and see if the front loader mechanism now works correctly. Oh, put the drive belt on first. That felt good. What about eject? And now, will it take the tape in properly? And eject. Quite vicious the way it ejects the tape at the end, but that spring was the problem. Excellent. Just connect it up and confirm that we have a good picture, and then we can reassemble the cabinet work. And that's all working a treat. Let's get to play with the jog and shuttle controls as well. Perfection! I see we have a separate tracking control for slow-mo, which would be this. So let's just adjust that tracking control. I'm not completely eliminating the noise bars, but then this tape was actually recorded on my other Beta 1 machine. But that's all working as it should. So let's reassemble the cabinet work. And there it is, completed. Even though we have some cosmetic damage that we can't entirely fix, the bulk of it is brought up to a reasonable standard. I sorted out the controls behind here. The broken hinge on here is fixed. The display's a bit dim. Trying to get the reflections of my ridiculously bright shirt off it. So yeah, the display could be brighter, couldn't it? The part which is only on when the machine is on isn't so bad, but the part that's permanently lit, obviously the display is just plain worn out there. Playback is fine. The machine's a bit noisy when it's playing this tape because it's running so fast. Of course, these Beta 1 tapes run at a rate of knots, so it all just seems a bit faster than we're used to. Certainly here in PAL lands, you don't expect to see a tape running at that sort of speed. Doing my final sort of checks, and there's something wrong. When I'm in pause, it's playing, and when I go to play, it plays with a good picture but makes an odd noise. Why is it making all that noise? Oh dear, off with the lid. Let's find out what's going on now. Okay, with the bottom off, that's working fine. So let's carefully put the bottom back on and maybe refit one screw or something. Okay, try that. Fine. Alright, let's fit some more screws. I shouldn't come to any harm actually leaving it playing while I'm fitting the screws, should I? Let's try that. I am seeing one other small defect. This is a mono tape. I know that, it's recorded on a mono machine, and yet we have a disparity between the readings of the VU meters. See that? I'm inclined to believe the left channel, not the right. Maybe the right's a bit high. There doesn't appear to be an adjustment for the amplitude of the VU meters that I can see. So what I'm going to do is feed 1 kHz into left and right channels at the same volume level and see if there's a skew on that path. So they're both lit up fully red there, so I need to lower the volume. Clearly, it looks like the, I don't know if you can see the VU meters, bounced up and down a little bit there. But actually no, they appear to be correct. Can you see that? When these levels are set the same, left and right channels are the same. So it just seems to be that the playback of the tape is favouring that channel. Remember that funny noise we heard earlier? It's doing it again, isn't it? And when I hit pause, it's playing, even though it's in pause, and then the noise goes away. So we still have that problem. Shall I take the bottom off again? So I think I'm not going to worry about the VU meter thing. I've proven that with a good signal in, that the VU meters are working properly. It just appears to be an issue with what's happening when it's playing back a linear mono track. What I really need to work on is why we're having this slight weirdness going on, where it's making a funny noise and pause is leaving it in play when the bottom is on the machine. Let's take the bottom off again. Okay, let's try it again on its side, which isn't ideal with the bottom off. And it's now behaving properly. What is it about putting the bottom of the machine on that's causing it to behave strangely? Could it be pressure on a board? What is going on? In the fault condition, pause doesn't pause. And play makes a noise. I really don't see this metal is impacting anything here, apart from that IC, which it's possibly acting as a cooling for. You can see these eye-shaped standoffs are sitting in the dust here. Nothing is proud of those standoffs. And there's another standoff here. But somehow, when I refit the bottom, the machine starts to act up. I was wondering if the sort of tang of the metal of the front of it is impacting on a board here, maybe? Doesn't look like it. Have I got a screw that's too long that's maybe touching a board? It's not really an opportunity for that. Maybe in that one? If I was touching the jog and shuttle control electronics in there? Maybe. Perhaps I could miss that screw out. It does seem an awful lot of screws for one bottom panel, and maybe I won't fit them all. Right, I've thinned out the amount of screws slightly. Let's see where we are. That's now working. Right, I'll test it in that condition, I think. What I'm going to do actually is make a test recording, because I don't have a long test recording. So let's make what speed should we use? Beta 2 test recording. Just record for a few seconds, go back and check that plays okay. A little bit grubby, but then it is an old tape. Okay, let's make a long test recording. I've actually switched to Beta 1 test recording since it was a Beta 1 tape I was trying to play earlier. So let's make a tape full of Beta 1 test recording, which this Japanese version of the machine can do, and I gather that the USA model can't. Okay, it's playing back the Beta 1 recording. It also played back some of the Beta 2 recording earlier. Beta Hi-Fi is illuminated. Picture's okay. I mean, it's not incredible to be honest, but it's fine. and it seems to be playing reliably with those screws removed. Dare I fit some more screws underneath? The only one I've missed out now is the one that's underneath the jog and shuttle control. I'll leave it on test for a bit longer. Okay, I did notice a problem. If we use picture search on the jog and shuttle, I think it may damage a tape. There, I think it may have damaged the tape slightly. Yes, I can hear it crumpling a little bit. Stop and start again. Doesn't sound so good, does it? Probably a worn pinch roller. Let's take the lid off again and have a look. I'm seeing two different faults. One is that sometimes when we go out of picture search, the take-up spool is not keeping up. So let's put it into picture search. Forward is okay, but when I go reverse picture search, we're getting loops of tape. Look, the take-up spool didn't start fast enough, and I had to give it a nudge with the forward shuttle. So that's got to be the real idler, or pendulum as Sony call it. Yes, it's not keeping up, and that's happening. Okay, the other problem is that when I'm selecting play, sometimes it makes a funny noise. When I hit pause, such as it's paused now, it continues to play, and it shouldn't be. But that problem seems to go away when I take the bottom off. Let's take some screws off from underneath and see if that problem's gone away again. Okay, I've taken the screws out from along the middle line, which were the last ones I fitted. Let's see if now when I select pause it does pause. Yes, it does! The problem only seems to happen when it's got those screws in the middle. Right, I'm going to not refit those screws for the time being and see where that gets us. But we also now need to look at this problem with the real drive. So put it into picture search. Yeah, you see it again. When I come out of picture search, you get a loop because this isn't keeping up. Most of the time it's fine, but occasionally the take-up spool is not keeping up. Usually take up, but can happen in reverse as well. You know, I'm not really seeing a fault often enough to know if it's worth risking taking the reel table off. If I was Mr. 12V Vids, I'd probably do that, but I'm not sure what I can achieve by taking the reel table off and looking at the reel drive pendulum. I can't get a replacement anyway. And now that I've got it into the position where it's not doing that weird fault, because those screws are out the bottom, the fault seems to have not quite gone away, but it's much less. You can just see it there, a little loop of tape when I come out of picture search. Just a tiniest hint of one. I'm going to leave it playing and test some more, I think. Playing with the picture search. Well, after quite a lot more testing, I'm not seeing any more problems with this machine. So I think I'm going to call that a win. The only thing we need to sort out then is finding a transformer to run this down in the studio. Right, I hope you've enjoyed the series on this SL-HF900 SuperBeta machine. I've got plenty more projects coming up, several of which I'm working on already, so do come by and watch me work on those in the near future. Bye for now.